Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dealer Chat podcast with James of Chops Garage, Dave of the Lovely Car Company, and myself, Joe of Barrow Motors. And today we have our special guest, Rob Cubitt of Cubitt Cars. So, Rob, congratulations on having featured really on every single one of our episodes so far, but the first time in person. And you see, you're coming directly from your showroom.
Yes, absolutely.
Have you got someone in to clean it up before you started, or
bit of work going on? The dragging on of the lads this morning, so apologies for the digger in the background, but it's
no worries.
A clean floor now.
We did wonder whether you were going to be coming from the deepest, darkest corner of your showroom, or I'm sure you'll remove the background in a minute and show us where you
He's
really
got horrendous. He's got the worst showroom in the world, hasn't he? We've all seen it.
Sorry, it's pretty poor. It's pretty rough.
So before we get into everything, I suppose for those of us, or those of the viewers and listeners among us who don't know much about you, Rob, tell us a bit about yourself and your business, Cubitt Cars.
Ooh, right, so similar to yourself, Joe, in many ways, came from a career that I wasn't enjoying. So mine was financial services, so pensions advice, investments advice, basically making rich people richer. So I thought, no, I want to make them poorer. So what I've done now is moving to car sales, but I'm really passionate about it. So similar to yourself, and I'm sure the other lads on here as well, we do care about what we do. I enjoy cars, I love them. So set up sort of 5 years ago, trading off the drive. Went to a little unit, went to a bigger unit, made the big unit pretty, and that's pretty much got us to where we are now. But I'm a tight Yorkshireman, so I don't really take a lot from the business, which is kind of how it's grown fairly quickly in relation to sort of number of units we've got and in value of units. So yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, you can find Rob on TikTok is probably where I saw you first, doing your bits and pieces.
That's where I came across Rob first, is TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah. Interestingly, considering you've got what's sort of like your headline stuff you've got in stock at the moment. We were just talking before we came on. You've got a 360 Modena Ferrari. Is it a Modena? I don't know.
Yeah, Spider. Yes, it's convertible.
Okay. And what else is in stock that's like, it's all Porsches and...
Yeah, so we've got an Aston Martin Vantage in at the minute. That's quite nice. It's a one-owner car, 7,000 miles, 2018 full Aston history. Got a Jag F-Type V18. That's quite cool. What else is in? I'm giving away where I'm sat here.
You've got your Lotus still, haven't you? Have you still got your Lotus?
Yeah, Lotus is in. Sorry, that's just gone for a service. I've forgotten about it. Yeah, so that's just gone into Lotus for its first service. A bit of all sorts. We have Porsche Panamera. That's quite cool.
Mm-hmm.
Still got the M5 in.
M5.
Yeah. And you must have an AMG in, because I know you love your AMGs.
There's an E63 in, yes. There's always...
See, I know your stock better than you do, mate.
Cheers, mate. What's my margins? Because I've no idea anymore.
They owe you nothing. I'm just going to come up and buy the lot tomorrow, mate. I've got 20. I'll just buy the lot, won't it?
Yeah, it's out. Yeah, fine.
So out of interest, in comparison, what was the first car you sold from your driveway at home?
Fiat 500.
There you are.
It's
doable, everyone. You can do it. You can trade up from a Fiat 500 to a Ferrari 360.
We both know Theo, don't we? Theo at
yes.
What's Theo's business called?
Bowen Cars or Bowen
Cars. That's it. Yeah, and he says I remember selling Rob like a Toyota Yaris or something back in the day, and he's really gone up.
He bought it. We were just talking about this before you got up and made your coffee.
How were you?
Yeah.
All right. Cheers, mate. Thanks. Yeah.
To say back in the day, it was only 5 years ago. So to get to where you are now in 5 years is unbelievable.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's just hard work. We all know the game, don't we, lads? It's just hard work and just.
But you're obviously prepared to take risks, aren't you? Because at the end of the day, it's very. I mean, I've fallen into a comfort zone where I'm like, I have these cars under a certain value, and I know where I am, and I've not really moved from that. So you've obviously taken a bigger risk and a bigger risk each time, reinvested that cash every time to go into the higher end motors, unless you just borrowed a shitload of money.
Yeah. Well, I was only gifted $1 million, so I didn't start with a lot.
Oh, it's that kind of setup, right? Yeah, Dad only gave me $1 million. Yeah,
it's just a small mill.
Do you know, funnily, when I sort of we were talking about you on the other one, we were saying about your showroom, and I looked up Cubitt Cars, and it came up with there's an old brand of cars called Cubitt. Is that a family thing?
That's where Rob's name comes from, isn't it, Rob? Didn't you explain that on your TikTok? That's where your name comes from, isn't it?
Obviously we share the same name, so Cubitt is my surname. But no, that was it was a British car manufacturer based in sort of the early 20th century, so sort of 1912, something like that. Didn't make a lot of units. A lot of them went to Africa because they're good for off-road. But unfortunately, there is no relation there whatsoever. The hardest thing we're starting off the business calling it Cubitt Cars and having to battle for number one on Google for a car manufacturer that doesn't bloody exist anymore.
I thought you were going
Yeah.
to say you got all the warranty claims from people that bought them 100 years ago, because
Exactly,
that's
yeah.
about right in this day and age, isn't it? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just failed its MOT. I hold you wholly responsible.
Yeah, quite. It's got your name on it, mate. Oh, cheers.
Yeah, I did wonder how's he managed to get all these lovely cars in this lovely unit, and I thought, oh, I wonder if he comes from like a long line of the manufacturer, but no. All right, we'll let you off.
Well, it's zero experience, mate. Absolutely
Yeah.
none whatsoever.
And Rob, where will you buy your cars from then? If you don't mind us asking. Because when I look at prestige cars, I always think it's not the auction, surely.
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But you do. I have seen you buy a couple from auction, haven't you?
Yeah, I dabble. It depends how we are for stock, and I think we all take calculated risks, don't we, in this industry? And when I'm buying from auction, I'm really, really careful. I'll be ringing the dealers that the cars, the manufacturers, and going, have you seen this car? What's the history, etc. But as a rule, I buy from other dealers. Or I buy we're buying a lot from TikTok, funnily enough. Since we started,
it's a great way of getting business, isn't it?
Really good way of doing it. And YouTube, we're just obviously starting off now. That's sort of partly why we're here as well. But yeah, I tend to drive privately, other traders, trade-ins, because when you do heavy stuff. So, for example, we sold a BMW M8 competition. That was earlier this year. It was a 65 grand car. That went out, got a C63S on the back of it. That went out, got a GTD on the back of that. That went out. So we got 3 cars for the price of one, if that sort of makes sense. Yeah. So, yeah.
And what about the like car supermarkets? Will they come to you because they don't like selling that type of stuff?
No, but they can if they want. I'm here.
I doubt many of them get part exchanged in, though, do they? When someone's going in for their Hyundai,
Dave, you've got a lot of relations with car supermarket, or a few, haven't you? Because you talk about it quite a bit. I noticed.
What's that? Sorry,
have you got relationships with car supermarkets? Because I've noticed you mentioned it a few times.
I have, yeah. And basically, when you do get a lot of people that trade down, that will have Porsches, stuff like that, and then the car supermarkets, they don't like having them. So then they've got, they've got dealers on their network that they'll just ring up and say, look, do you want this car?
So they don't send everything to auction, because in most places now, if you ask about part X's, it all goes to auction, has to go to auction. But you've managed to get in on a few car supermarkets, have you, that'll deal with you directly?
I think everything going to auctions generally franchise dealers, isn't it? Normally, yeah. I think car supermarkets, a lot of them are kind of like still privately owned-ish. So,
right, okay,
you can do what you like, can't you? If you're privately own a business, you're probably going to say, well, if Dave is willing to pay a bit more than we're likely to get auction, they'll take it, won't they? But if it's a franchise and it's layers of management, it's level playing field. Let's send everything to auction so that you don't have all the things that I've seen and heard of as you come up through this trade. People who are sending out the part exchanges for 500 quid and getting £2,000 in their back pocket, that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
I've heard stories that that's exactly why they don't do it. House when they were on 30k or something. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
And also, they're not going to want to pay the auction fees, are they? So if they know they can ring Rob up, oh look, Rob, we've got this beautiful Porsche. Do you want first dibs on it? I know that happens with certain dealers.
Yeah, because you think what a ball's ache is to get the vehicle transported to an auction, and then you've got the fees, and then you've got presumably, I don't know how quick they are at paying you out as well when you put it through the auctions. They're going to be quite slow. Like me, I went
not that slow, not that fast, yeah.
No, I went and I paid for the 2 cars before I picked them up from the main dealer yesterday, and just drove them back here, and they were gone within a few hours of being dropped off as part X's, and the money was in their bank. So you wonder why more places aren't up for doing that.
I think there's a lot of messing about, isn't there? When they're starting to try and get dealers involved to buy the part exchanges.
There's a lot of messers even in the trade.
Oh,
very true. Yeah,
potentially more so in the trade sometimes. I don't know what it's like, but I think if I own a big franchise, just bang them all out. Just now get them all out. Some will go overbook, some will go under. We'll average out. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why my rule is I just buy everything without question. I'll go down and buy it all, give them the money they ask for it, get it away, go on quick, make myself the easiest person in the world to do business with.
Dave will tell us first profit's best profit. Isn't that one of your sayings, Dave?
Yeah, first profit's best profit, definitely, because you keep hold of it. Oh, keep hold of it. And then you should have just got rid of it ages ago. Keep the money flowing, keep your business growing. That's what I
100% agree with that statement. I sent a Q7 to auction a while ago, and we got bid 12 grand on it. Now I'd bought it not long before. out of auction, run it for a bit. There's a couple of things wrong with it. I just thought it's not for me. Get it back through. It was a bit old, needed paint and stuff like that. It's not our sort of cup of tea. Went back through, made 12. I thought, I get 13 for this. I'll send it through. 6 months later, I accepted 8.
That's it.
Oh, no. Ow.
You keep hold of it because you just can't take that loss.
The other thing with
loss.
auction as well, when I've sent stuff to auction like that before, and I've got, like you say, just, really, if you think about £1,000, you can bin that on a warranty claim in seconds. It's no big deal, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've come back to me. It's maybe like being 500 quid under. I'm like, no, I really think it should do more. And you let it go through again. But we're all the same. If we're all watching the auctions, we see it come through for a second time. And it's not just like, oh, they didn't accept the offer. Well, it's like it didn't meet its reserve. So no one was that interested in it. Secondly, maybe they looked at it and it was shit and they sent it back. Yeah. So the fact that its stock has gone down, people are like, I've seen that car before. There's a reason it's still here.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the values go down to a degree.
And it's a private entry as well.
Yeah, that's the other thing as well. If it's not a name brand or whatever, if it's an independent little dealership and they've put something for auction, you're like, what's going on with that?
What's the matter?
Do you ever use like CarWow and Motorway and stuff, Rob?
Yeah, I've dabbled on Motorway.
I just imagine if you see your sort of stock, AMG, Porsche, that sort of stuff. I was just curious because I'm not really. I might bid on the odds, like have a funny 5 minutes. I'll have an M4 or an M3 or something. But I feel like they must be, because I love a big margin. They must be the things where I don't know. You see that sort of stuff at auction as well, and obviously everyone is wary with it, and it is a big gamble. But I do love seeing like, God, look at the margin in that. You could have 10 grand across that. But I feel like that your sort of stock, you must be able to, if they come up, surely. Do they still go like with big margins, or do people get carried away and want to seem to bid on them for themselves?
Are you referring to Motorway and CarWow?
Oh yeah.
So we've got Super in at the moment. Took a deposit on it yesterday, and that car really it's a 40 grand car. You should be on really at least a 4 grand margin on that, probably a little bit more. Still in main dealer warranty because they're on Toyota warranty, etc. Now I ended up giving, I want to say 37 for it. Then I had motorway fees on top. And then I'd not realised it was in Bristol and I'm near Leeds. So
I'd driven it up for you.
Oh yeah, cheers. I bet
we're not too far,
I told you to that. So by the time you net it all down, you're sort of going, we might have a couple of grand on this car. But we might get a guy coming in who wants to buy it on finance. You might pull a bit of finance commission out of it or whatever. Guy's left the deposit, 70 years old, cash buyer.
Always the way, isn't it? And this is where people are like, cash is king. See, I haven't got a part exchange and I don't want finance. It's all cash. And it's like, well, yeah, you fucking talk about boner killer. Like, that's the complete opposite of what we want.
But I've heard the guys dominating Motorway. What they're doing, the dealers dominating Motorways, they're basically bidding to view the car. So they're outbidding everyone so they can get out there. And then they're very good at hammering them when they get to the doorstep. Yeah. So which is why it doesn't really high motorway bids, aren't they? And then they're still giving you these motorway bids, going, I've been told this much on motorway, and it's like it's the same as going.
Well, you're kind of bidding for the opportunity to go and see it in person, aren't you? That's why it doesn't work for me because I've tried it before and I've bid what I'm willing to pay, and with the risk of there may be a couple of bits more that we can't see and whatever. You just never get anywhere near it because people are willing to bid over and then go down and kick him in the bollocks. So it's just I thought maybe
I tried putting someone on motorway in the nose. It didn't work at
really.
All. Bought a Lotus off there, Lotus Elise, and it was one of those where, in the morning you go on, you go, I'll have that, I'll have that, because you're not going to win them all. And I won this Lotus and thought, oh, okay, sound, have a quick look. And Australia Retail suggested there's actually quite a nice margin on it. And then I looked and I was like, hang on a minute, there's an identical car here for 3 grand below Australia Retail. They've had it in for 240 days. So same colour, everything. Mileage was even better and the owners were. So I rung them. I said, what's on? Oh, we just can't open the door. And I thought, I'm going to have to kick this guy nuts when you get down there. Went down, found a load of stone chips on what was an immaculate car. He's going, oh no, I've never noticed those before in my 2 years of ownership. Tony, the driver, saw me in 10 minutes. I thought, we've got an angle, wouldn't budge, not a penny, nothing. So I ended up actually, I know it's a little bit, this might be considered wrong, but I actually used that as leverage and I said, Tony, just come back. If he's not willing to move.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. We had this discussion last week, didn't we? Was it last week we discussed this about
me and you, James,
offering you cars? They don't. The people aren't accurate, and they have to accept that if they haven't properly represented the vehicle, then they're going to get hit. It's not about dealers being dodgy. When that person comes to buy that Lotus, it's going to be, oh, it's got stone chips all over the front. I mean, you're going to pay a painter, you know, bloody hundreds and hundreds of pounds to get it done. So they've got to accept that if they haven't been accurate in their description, you know, you're going to chip them down. It's not about you being a dodgy dealer. But I bet his version of that story is like really like, oh yeah, just another.
What did he
dodgy
expect for this
dealer
age
trying to-
and whatever?
Yeah, yeah.
Even though they said it was immaculate, yeah.
Yeah, but also the other issue I think with that sort of stuff is when you're selling something that's prestige, and especially that's sort of a little bit niche as well, like a Lotus, your buyer's going to be coming around and really analysing that car. And if it's had paint, it's very hard to hide why it's had paint. So you can't sell it with the stone chips on because it looks rough. But if you paint it, the front end's been painted. Why has it been painted?
Yeah,
so
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
You're well walking away. To be fair, it's just not worth the headache trying to punt it on later on to an enthusiast.
One of these.
Sorry, you know, on your rise to these cars, who would you say the easiest customers have been to deal with?
Fiat 500s.
Yeah,
I'll go back to it in a breath.
Oh, they nickel and dime you death.
I call bullshit.
I
call bullshit.
No, I'm genuinely love them. Love it. No, I mean that. I bought an Abarth thing. I did a video on YouTube, and I actually only used it as a link for the Facebook of this Italian two-door car coming in. How proud I was that we got to this point. It was the first Abarth that I bought. And I tell you what, the buyers didn't mess about on price. Had it. They had a warranty claim on it. I think it was a shocker. It was like £1. You know, they're just so inexpensive to put right. And when I was doing Fiat, I'll send you a picture actually to drop on of my old showroom. We just had a line of Fiat 500s outside of it, because it would be a case of daughter would come down with dad. Oh, I like it. It's white. Here's a check, Rob. Take the car. Just it was so easy.
That's mad, because that's my first photo as well. Like when I started out, I had that many cars personally when I was in my corporate job that I had to share a garage with a mate who was an Italian specialist. So when I started doing this, I just did Fiat 500s, and my first photo was just a row of Fiat 500s, and exactly the same thing. They come along, mum and dad come along, and I sold an Abarth recently, and I have to say, actually, I was a bit worried about it, but the guy came along, he went, blah, blah, blah. He said, probably need some tires there. How about if we do this price and I take it away and get the tires done? And I was like, yeah. And I've never heard from him again. Just bought the car, off he went, no hassle. I mean, it was a minter, but they were pretty good to deal with. Yeah, you had a little run of doing the baths as well, didn't you, Joe? I thought you had a little successful run of doing the baths.
So little one, yeah. I was just trying to one up you for, like, you know, they've got those things where it's like, oh well, I grew up without a dad, and so well, I didn't have a mum either, or what, you know, who's got the worst scenario? I did Corsa D's, and I didn't even have a showroom. I had a field. I used to store them in someone's field, and then if someone wanted to view them, I'd go and pick them up and bring them back over if they'd start.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that probably at least 80% of those had a head gasket issue.
Yeah, and rattly timing chains. Used to put a bit of Lucas oil
exactly.
in.
I bet you went along that line. It's like timing chain, head gasket, timing chain, head gasket.
See, I've got one for sale now.
What, Corsa D?
Yeah. I was in an 11 plate. And because we sold these cars in the beginning, I still romanticize about them now. So,
yeah,
you know,
I tell you what,
and there's like
sold
1,500 quid in it. I think, oh, sod it, I'll just sell it.
I sold an automatic one to the mother-in-law, and the other day I was around there and heard her start out. This is about 2 years on, and I heard the timing chain. I was like, do I say anything or not?
The thing is, those Corsa Ds would go on forever and a day with the timing chain rattling.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
And we used to, like they say, the first car I ever bought was a Corsa. I bought it from another dealer, got there, and it had this rattling timing chain. I didn't really know what that meant. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty. But I bought it on eBay, and I got it for like 800 quid. And I wanted to have my first trade car that I bought, and I could drive it back on my trade plate, so I bought it anyway. And yeah, we just put like a bit of Lucas, whatever, in, you know, the oil stabilizer.
Okay, that's what a mechanic said to me yesterday. Just when I mentioned this mother-in-law thing, just put thicker oil in. I'm lucky that I've got a guy who works for me £100 a day, and he can do one in a day.
Yeah,
so
I mean, they're not. But when you're starting out and you haven't got the contacts and you haven't got mechanics.
No, it's definite. I always say that to people as well. Like when they talk about they know they've got a bad car, I say, look, we buy any car as a fair target, go and dump it on them, but don't go and dump it on some lad who's starting out and only has 10 cars outside, because that's destroyed his entire month. Right. So that's the only one I consider fair game.
Yeah. And Rob, have you had any months where you've had some horrific warranty claims that have wiped you out?
Well, yeah, fortunately we're on the first of the month, so we're no longer sat in one, mate. But yeah, last month was pretty bad. We had a couple of they're still coming to fruition, but we've had a couple of issues, unfortunately. But I've got one car that's an absolute standout. I'm going to do a video on it at some point. It was basically a guy had oh, hang on a minute.
Not the guy.
I know.
Oh, bloody
His
hell.
staff are bringing in drinks. I
Right,
knew
you
it
can lose the
happened. I
background
knew
now.
it
Show
happened.
us where
Yeah,
you really
can drop
are.
the background now.
That time was incredible.
He's
Callum.
in Spearmint Rhino and Leeds.
How do we do this background?
Yeah.
Just background, is that it? I might lose
Just
you
for
here.
everyone who's listening and not watching or whatever. Hey, look at that.
Yeah.
There we go. You're not
People
even
saying
in the
that Rob's got
fanciest
this
bit either.
amazing.
And up the top, you haven't seen this, people, but up the top, he's got it like all like oaked out with a pool
Got a full
table
bar,
and
which is
everything,
where
and
that
a
drink's come
bar.
from.
He's got a bar, exactly. Hold on, my mobile valet is here. Just 2 seconds. Let's give him the keys.
Can never rely on James to stay on camera.
And,
I'm meant to be the one that's got ADHD.
he's selling a car in a minute.
I got a theory, right, Rob, that people, when it comes to like part exchanges and people getting funny about their part exchange prices because they're like so like emotionally attached to a car, especially men, generally speaking, if they're into cars, it's like part of them and it's their one main car, which I can't really, well, I suppose I can't really connect with because I've got like 70 cars. But I imagine with your sort of stuff, like with that Aston, for example, that must, I don't know. I can't tell if it's going to be worse or the people who are buying that sort of thing have got loads of money and they're just on to the next thing. I don't know. Or do you find they're really like, well, no, it's worth a lot more than that. It's like, well, it is retail, but.
So that guy gave £145,000.
Yeah, no worries, mate. I'll make you brew in a bit.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
back.
Oh, Rob.
How rude.
I've just got this cracking piece of stock, like a 10-year-old Mocha with 110,000 miles on it and an auto box and flaky paint the valet needs to do for me. So yeah, let's go back to
We're just trying to talk to Rob about some of his bangers first.
Aston Martin. Sorry?
We're just trying to talk to Rob about some of his bangers first. If you can stop gloating, just give us a second.
Okay, sorry, mate. Yeah, sorry. I did.
Yeah,
I'm trying to one-up him, but yeah, I think I'll struggle.
So yeah, the Aston, Rob, he paid 145 grand for it.
Yeah, so we gave £145,000 for that car. Now, it is for sale at the minute, so I'd rather not say what we gave for it, but it is up at £78,000. So you can imagine what he's lost on that thing. He's done 7,000 miles in it in 6 years. Painful, isn't it? But
I meant to ask you as well, don't you sell cars sometimes like where it's sale or return or commissioned or that?
We've got one at the moment, which is that
Oh,
Lotus.
one, okay.
Yeah, so...
The thing that always worries me with that is, aren't you still liable? Or do you not take the transaction? Because I know that the rule is if you don't, I've done it before and I've said, right, I'll advertise it. Here's what I want out of the deal, but I will not do the transaction. When they come in and they want to negotiate, they've got to ring you, they've got to negotiate, and they've got to pay you directly. So I never had the money in my account, so I can't be liable. But obviously that's difficult with the kind of value of cars you're doing.
Yeah, and I think that the reason that we would do sale or return, I know a lot of companies do a lot of it, is because we've got the facility to do finance, do warranties, all that sort of stuff. So
confidence inspiring. That's the point.
So what are you doing? You're pre-agreeing what you're going to buy the car from them for, and then when you've sold it, then you pay them.
Yes, correct. So
right, okay.
With that Lotus, I can count on one hand how many sale or return deals I've done since we've started. That Lotus is the most recent one, and basically he said, look, I need this much out of the car, what do you think it's worth? He actually approached another company for sale or return, I won't mention them, and the fee they were going to charge for a car that's still in main dealer warranty would be priced very aggressive. It was a lot of money, so I know it sounds awful, I just undercut them. I just thought this is fairly low risk, other than if you potentially sell that car to someone on a distance. They've got the 14-day hand money off period to hand it back. I mean, depends which way you want to run your business. You can exempt yourself from that in certain ways. There's ways of doing it. Because if you're not big enough, you don't do a big enough proportion of your business sale distance sales. You can class as
I didn't know that.
This rule. Yeah, there's a great guy in just up the road from me who just loads of distance sales and still falls into that category somehow.
I probably fall into that category then. Yeah.
Yeah, worth speaking to the logistics on it. But when I was watching the podcast the other day, actually, and I noticed that, David, you said that you've only ever had one hand back on a sale, on a distance sale anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not really that scary.
But I must say, I hate doing sale or returns. They just never sit right with me, and they always seem to hang about forever because I'm not as invested in it. It's not my money. Do you know what I mean? So I find that I just have the sale or return cars just hanging around and thinking, oh, well, I haven't got any money in that, so I'll just wait for the right customer.
But you can't prep it either, can you? You're not going to be able to prep it in advance because who carries the bill for that if the car doesn't end up selling?
So he's carrying the bill for that. So
Yeah.
it's in Lotus at the moment, getting a service, and obviously there's a recruiter coming across here. And what basically said to him, he's a really nice bloke who approached us on TikTok, just saying, "Do you want to have a stab at this?" And I basically just said, "Yeah." And what we'll do is we'll just deduct it off the money at the end. The problem is we're now a month into this deal. I spoke to him yesterday actually when it was going into Lotus to confirm the service, and he's kind of going, "Oh, what we're thinking on price and." What's the analytics looking like? Are you getting a load of calls? And we had a good run with it where we had loads of calls at the start, and now it's sort of gone quiet. And when it's not your own car, the pressures.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to get into. You feel like the stress of someone else. Like, how's it going? Any inquiries, whatever. And I'm just too impatient these days. I just be like, fuck off, just leave me alone. It'll sell when it sells. I'm dealing with the sale. Leave me alone. I know that sounds. I come across as an arrogant prick, and I probably am, but. Yeah, the stress is, you're stressing about what cars of yours have sold and haven't, and then someone else being like, how's it going? And what's this and what's that? There's a pressure of doing it for someone else, which
I did it for a few people at the beginning, and I worked out I was spending exactly the same amount of time as I was doing my own stuff. I still had to have like a couple of viewings. I still had to get it listed on Auto Trader and make sure that was up to date, do the walk around video. And I worked out, I thought, well, I normally do this to make £1,000, and I've said to you, I'll take 300 quid off you or something on a cheap, and it's just not worth my time. It's just not worth my time doing it.
And then you feel guilty as well. You feel guilty for the customer that you haven't sold it within two. For us, a car hanging about for a month, it doesn't really matter, does it? But your customer, they think you're going to sell it in a week, and
yeah.
The way I look at them now, I don't do them because no one really offers me cars very often, which is fine because. Yeah, and I'm not dead keen on the whole thing. A lot of people would love to do it, especially if you're starting out. If you had someone who was offering you sale or return, it'd be brilliant to get you going.
Oh, yeah.
But the way people are like, oh, what would be? You do get just customers come in. They're like, what's the part exchange for that? And you're like 20 grand, and they're like, oh, yeah, but it's like 26 retail or whatever. It's like, well, you understand how business works, right? Like we have to make some profit at some point, but. They said, well, what would you charge to sell it for us? And we had some woman come in and she was trying to get us to sell a camper van. She was like, I will pay you for it. It's like, well, damn right you would. She's like, yeah, I'm happy to give you £300. It's like, you must be laughing. That wouldn't even cover the advertising fees. But I think the way I look at it is, say if we'd offer you 20 grand, retail is 26, for example, I can give you maybe 1 grand more, 1,500 quid more if I haven't got to stump up my cash. So it's helping my cash flow. I mean, that's better for you. It's better than you're going to get anywhere else. And I'm still getting a decent chunk out of it. But I'm not doing it to a set cost. Like you can, because who knows what's going to happen. If something happens with that, even if we've agreed you're going to cover any warranty issues that come up with that, the warranty issues will come up and we'll be responsible. And they'll be like, well, but it's a 10-year-old car. There shouldn't be, it's going to be like getting blood out of a stone. It's going to be a nightmare.
It is a nightmare.
I would just say, look, I'll take a slightly smaller margin and pay you when it's done, but it's not going to be, I'm not doing it on a set fee, even of like, 1,500 quid. I'm not doing it on a set fee. It's just, how long is that car going to sit there? And then if it sits there for 3 months and then they say, do you know what, we're going to try something else, and they take it away, it would have cost me 25 quid a day for it to be sat there for 3 months. And
I reckon you're going to get asked it a lot, Rob, if your YouTube takes off. I think you'll end up getting asked it quite a lot because of the type of cars you do.
Bring them in.
Yeah.
Bring them in. And Rob, what's your average like turnover of cars in a month? How many do you try?
Numbers. Well, I mean, it's so up and down, but we tend to do 20 for us is a really, really good month. 15's good, 10 sort of on the lower side. But I mean, I've had months back in the last year where you're doing 2 or 3, so there's no rhyme or reason for it. For me, genuinely, one of the reasons I started working the way into the sort of, I wouldn't want to call it still don't feel high end to me yet. But when you're into the sort of bigger units, the margins are bigger. A lot of this is, we're not paying interest on huge bank loans and stock loans and stuff like that because we've built it organically. So there's no rush to sell them. So you're not being sort of like a busy fool. If I was trying to do 30 cars a month at a grand a car versus 15 cars a month at 2 grand a car, I know which one I'd rather do. Because you're only having to prep and deal with 15, cars customers. So
that's how I would now have a bit of a sort of mind
like an epiphany
switch. An epiphany. That's it, Dave. Yeah. sort of, I was thinking I wanted to get this other site and I wanted to have bigger and more cars, and it would have meant coming down in value, but having more of them and turning over more and whatever. And I don't think you necessarily been a busy fool because it would have been very profitable. But I do think now that, you know, I got other irons in fires anyway for a start, that maybe having nicer, bigger margins, slightly more relaxed, more time to prep, a nicer quality of customers, you know, even if that
Not
means
always the
to keep
case,
the staff
Joe.
happy. No, I know. I can imagine, especially the one, oh God, I bet you get some like really entitled and egotistical fools, which I would not suffer easily.
Yeah, but you know some really nice. I tell you what, with some of the sort of really nice stuff, people, the level of trust seems to be higher.
Oh
And I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
know why.
100%.
You go, well,
Definitely.
yeah, they just trust you and go, it'll be all right, and you'll sort me out if it's not, Rob. And you're going to go, well,
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because that's how we are. So it's nice when you sort of get that sort of customer in, but you do get the whoppers in and the ones that are everything on flat. Any deposit on this 50 grand car? No, right? And then you do the finance checks and you think probably won't lend you a pen. So
Yeah.
yeah, lemonade.
Yeah.
And do you have a salesman, Rob?
It's what's right, mate.
The salesman.
Do you have a salesman, or is it just you?
No. Well, there's three of us at the moment. So there's myself. I do the buying and selling, basically. Then we've got Callum. So Callum started with me about 18 months ago. He came in as a valeter and now basically does all the head of preparation. So MOT, servicing, checking cars out, make sure they're all right. And they'll also dive onto sales if he needs to do. He's actually a really good people person, even though I call him other names. And then we've got a junior who's just started, a guy called Sam. He's very, very early days. He's still finding his feet. But what we've kind of, the way I'd like it is me doing just the buying and the selling, Callum doing sort of all the bits in the middle and some of the selling, and then someone just purely valeting and detailing. And I think that would be the sweet spot. I don't want any more than that. It's hard enough with two children.
What about a garage? Would you like a mechanic?
No, we use, so
You must want specialists.
yeah, as a rule, yeah, we just go to other mechanics, and I know you could save money there. But when you look at like an oil and filter change, so if it's something fancy, so for example, a C63 that's got part main dealer, part independent specialist, what I'll do is I'll buy the parts from Mercedes because I've got a good relationship with them. Might cost you 50, 70, 80 quid, whatever, for oil and filter, and I'll have them fitted, or have the oil changed and the filter fitted at I won't want to call it a backstreet garage, but a local garage. And I've got all the invoices to say it's genuine parts fitted at a garage that we know. So it's kind of following that sort of pattern that it's had with history. If it's full main dealer, I'll sometimes swallow it and just go, sorry, it's worth it for 500 quid or whatever.
We need to, before time runs away, I want to talk to Dave about what he's got going on, but it kind of ties into that. Like, what is your relationship like with the garage, like the independents and things that you do use? Because I feel like, even like with saying about like coming down in quantity and going up in value, things like that. I've got two mechanics full time, but and obviously I had two drivers at one point. We're down to none now. And a part of me is now thinking like, yes, you pay more to pay other people to do things, but if you're only paying for it part of the time as and when you need it and not all the time, then say like delivery drivers, mechanics, things like that, then probably in the long run, you're saving yourself a lot of stress if you've got a good garage. So that's the problem Dave's got, I think, is being able to rely on who you use.
We've had this discussion before. I think having a garage attached to you just invites more people to come back with niggly little problems. Whereas if you've got like Rob Saab, you'd never go there and expect him to crawl underneath the car with a spanner and start fiddling around. You know, you're going to accept that it has to go off to a garage to get the work done. I'm very much the mindset that I've worked out that if I buy all the tools, you know, one of Rob's cars, for example, if you decide to try and do the service yourself, you're probably going to spend $2.5 grand on tools before you can get to start to do the work on it. So, but I mean, even on my cheaper stuff, I think I don't want to deal with, you know, if they get the wrong part in and they have to trace down the right part, or they fit it wrong and they have to refit again. I want that all to be somebody else's problem. I can't be dealing with that being my problem as well as everything else I've got to get on with. So,
I do agree with that to a degree, which is why when I was, I don't know, whenever it was earlier in the year, trying to get that other couple of units so I could set up an MOT centre and workshop, but off-site. So that would give us more space for retail where we are. And like you say, if people had a warranty claim, you'd be like, okay, go down there. So at least it's not someone, you haven't got a screamer there mixing with someone who's trying to buy a 20 grand car off you, and someone's complaining about, their TPMS isn't working and it's the second time and they're furious. It's just not a great mix. But it's very rare, and most people are pretty good. And but yeah,
for me, it's the reason I want a mechanic is just for efficiency. Like you saying that someone comes back with a TPMS light or whatever, and we can't say, look, we'll just do it for you now. We haven't got a mechanic there to sort it there and then. It's like, oh, bring it back in 2 days. We'll get it booked in somewhere else. This week we're going to have to give
You are still going to have that though, because the part won't be on the shelf, and then it'll turn up wrong, and then it'll have to come back again, and then you need to buy your guy a bead breaker to take the tar off to put the sensor on, because you haven't got one of those here.
All it is for me is as well, like the amount of cars that needs work doing to them, and all I seem to do all day is drive cars to other garages.
Yeah.
One's got to go electrician, one's got to go MOT centre, one's got to go here, one's got to go there. If I could prep it all on site, surely it would just make the job more efficient.
I would
say with discs, pads, oil and filters on the stuff you sell, you could probably save your money there. Like I know I had sold a what was it, a C-Max, and it was like 38 quid for the servicing kit, and my guy that I pay £100 a day did that and 3 other things. He did discs and pads on another car and stuff. So I definitely made my money back there. But anything more comprehensive, I just can't be doing with that here.
Yeah, I don't think it's about the money as well. It'd help me sell more cars, because more cars.
A better kind of flow of everything going on. And
when you look at all main dealers have got a garage, a valeting team, and I'm just struggling here. We've got like 60 cars, and they all need work doing to them. They all need something doing.
Yeah.
So for me, I think I need a mechanic.
I think on that, I think you're right there, mate. To be fair, with your, not for me to sort of tell you what to do, but I think having something in house with 60 cars that need prep is almost a no-brainer.
There's so much logistics involved.
God, yeah. But the other thing you could potentially do there, I don't know, I've kind of considered this myself. We're lucky. We've got literally service centre there, MOT is there. You can walk to both places, and the body shop, if we ever need it, is 4 minutes down the bypass. So everything's here. But if we were to have our own service centre, if you look at businesses like Alexander's Prestige, for example, which is for me like the jewel in the crown of superguarding, I just think they're amazing. They sell service packs, and they'll include servicing. So the customers are coming back. And Ferrari are a big one on this. That's why they do 7-year service packs for the new cars, because they're seeing the car come back in. They go, oh, just sit in the showroom while we do your service. Oh, what's that? You want a 4, 5, 8 or whatever, and they're into the next one. So that might be slightly different with, 60 cars at 10, 20 grand or whatever, but you've got that next sort of bite of the cherry potentially by doing your next.
You've built that relationship with the customer, haven't you?
Exactly.
To be fair, we used to do if you buy a car from us, we'll give you next year's MOT test for free if you have a service with us. So that would drum up servicing work. So they'd come back next year. Oh, we've got that free MOT. It's like, yep, booking in with a service. And like, oh, at least we get to check the car over again and whatever. They pay for the service. They get the MOT for free. It's 40 quid. Factor that into every car you sold. But in the end, we're like, actually, you know what? We shut doing stuff for other people. But for looking after your own customers, that is a good way to get them back in and keep your mechanic busy if you need him to be busy. But
unless
it does work if you've got the scope for it. But I feel like we're just so busy anyway. Part of it will help having someone there, and you'll be very grateful for having it. But another part, I think you'll still be just as busy. You'll just be busy in a different way. But that's just
if you took your mechanics away from you, how do you think you'd deal with the job? How do you think you'd be? Do you think it'd stress you out a lot more?
Well, yeah. Not like the mechanics don't stress me out, but
you must get a lot of stress from the mechanics.
Yeah, well, you know what mechanics are like, and you've got 2 of them full time, and it's like,
exactly.
Well, that's never going to be that. That's never going to be. It's just like, just do it.
Would it stress you out thinking, right, I've got to send these cars out to lots of other garages?
Yeah, I think it would. But if you had, it would have to be. It is kind of like the holy grail of finding a garage. They've got to be fairly local. They've got to be on the ball. You want them to be professional and good. But if you could say, work up a good relationship with them, and they charge you whatever it is, let's say it's really cheap and it's 50 quid an hour, and just say, look, I got this car come in, it needs this. Can I send it across to you? And they're like, yeah, sure. And they'll fit it in with the next day or two and it's done. And you could have a flow going like that. But you haven't actually got to be involved with the, they're like, it needs this part, it needs that. Can you order this? What do you want to do? Oh, I don't know about this one. That's probably gonna have to go somewhere else or whatever. If you just handle that off and the car goes off, they present you with a bill for even if it's 1,500 quid and it comes back, you've still got a margin in it. I don't know. I just think
I kind of got that. I guess I'm lucky and I've kind of got that to a certain extent. Yeah, I get a bit frustrated at how long it can take sometimes, but as a general rule, it's drop it off, do whatever needs to be done to get it through its MOT. And then I just get a phone call like 4 or 5 days later, it's ready. I go down, pay the bill, take it away and swap it out for another one.
And the time that you'll save there by not messing about your own mechanics and all the logistics and et cetera, it's kind of almost just worth paying for it. And then the time you've saved, you've bought another car, haven't you? And the margin.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not considering it if they're listening, my mechanics, but it's just
by the way, lads.
time to cheer up and stop being so bloody miserable all the time.
Are your own mechanics miserable then?
No, well, one is, but that's just his
I think
personality.
Matt at High Peak Autos did a video, didn't he, on just why mechanics are all so down on everything, didn't he? He said they must have gone to a special college to learn how to be so depressed and upset about everything all the time.
I think the problem is if you got, it'll be okay for you anyway, Dave, because you'll be on the ball with management. I'm trying to step away, and I've got loads of other stuff dragging me away from it. I almost want it to be like to be running itself. But if it's not being managed well, and someone's going, well, no one's giving me a job, and no one's whatever, and like there's parts out there, what's that? And it's just like,
You need a manager, don't you? That's what James Sinclair says, doesn't he? He's like, if you have a management team, that takes your business to the next level.
When I'm there and I'm organising it, things run smoothly because someone will be like, oh, well, there's parts here, and what's that for? I'm like, I don't know, well, have a look on it. Or what's it say on there? Right, it's the thing. So have you got any other jobs on? No. Right, bring that in then and get it done then while you got, a couple of hours, get it done. And then things flow. But if there's not someone there it's difficult when it's all other employees. I'm the only one who can be bolshy and just get it done. Just get on with it. That's that. I'm making the choice. Don't, no one else is going to complain about it. Just do that and get on with it. Whereas other people might be like, oh, well, I don't know what's best. You might have to ask Joe, or, you need someone who's fairly strong, I guess, to just be like, yeah, that's it, do that. And they're like, oh, but something else might be coming in later. It's like, well, we'll deal with that later.
So looking at it, I'd rather be in Rob's shoes, having more expensive stock with bigger margins, and it sounds like you've got less headaches.
I think you probably would. But then you've got it's I think it's going to be a sort of like a shift of understanding that stuff isn't going to sell as quickly. You will have bigger margins, but when it's quiet, it's going to feel even worse.
Great. And when it goes wrong,
It's going to go wrong big, yeah.
Yeah.
But as long as the percentages are still right of what's warranty, what's whatever. But I still think, I mean, for example, I did that video where I bought 3 Range Rover Sports. The most expensive one we bought, I can't remember how much it was, but it's a hybrid thingy. That's dropped like £1,000 this month, and it's just sat there. That one hasn't gone anywhere. The other one was the sort of middle of the road blue one. We made about £6,000 on that one, and that was piece of piss in and out. The other one was the red one. We've got about £6,000 in that, but it's at the specialist 4x4 people now, and it needs a crossover pipe and whatever. And of course, with those, I don't know if it's body off or what. I didn't want to get involved. I didn't want to get my mechanics who aren't good at Land Rover wasting days and days and days and days trying to figure it out and whatever. Send it to them. It's going to cost me a couple of grand, but there's still going to be £4,000 in it. And the other one, it's still got like, I don't know, let's say 6 or 7 in it. So we dropped it £1,000. Even if we drop it another £1,000 to be £1,000 cheaper than everyone else, the law of averages, it's still been a bloody good. I mean, there must be, what we're saying, there must be like 15 grand across those 3 cars. So as that averages out, it's pretty damn decent. Yes, they're a little bit of a headache, but if you're buying them, say you're buying, a few a week, you're doing 10 a month or something, then if a couple of them hang around for a bit longer because they need a bit of work, who cares, But then
I think you're right there, Joe, with law of averages, but you have got to have the most gigantic testicles to fill your picture Range Rovers. I don't care what anyone says.
Well, not necessarily Range Rovers, but stuff that has got bigger margins. I think I'm getting to the stage where I just look at cars that maybe James would like to have, like Hyundai i10s and Ford Focuses, things you know would sell like that because everyone wants a Ford Focus, especially if it's a nice one with whatever. I just don't want to work for like 1,500 quid and see it whittle down to 900 quid after everything else is taken out. Never mind all your overheads and everything.
And
I
then
don't want to sell a car for that much and then still have all the bollocks and then still have the customers who are like, oh well, we spent $5,000 on this and we expect it to be blah 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 and expect it to be perfect. You can almost stomach it a bit more when it's a 30,000 car versus a $5,000 car, because a $5,000 car these days is a $2,000 car from a few years ago. Do you know what I mean? It's not
the sweet spot, I think, in selling the less expensive sort of part of this industry is the buyback situation. So if you've got a Screamer on a car that's $3,000, give them
yeah. Yeah.
Whereas if you've got a Screamer on a car that's 50 and you're already reinvested into your next stock and you might have 80 in your bank or whatever, and you're going, oh, that's a big chunk to buy a car back in.
Yeah,
I've already made the margin and I'm going to lose again. So there's lots of things to kind of factor in with the heavier stuff. But I think the sweet spot is selling off your drive, a couple of grand a car. That's the sweet spot in this.
If you want to just stick to the easiest way to make the highest profit margin, it is selling from home, 100%. Because I know when I started out, I could easily clear $1,000 a month net, just selling them like that. And, if you
I was making $1,000, 1,500 quid just doing MG.
Did I say a month? I meant if I said a month, I meant a week. So you're making $5,000 a month, just selling them from home, keeping it nice and simple and easy. And then obviously, as you expand, you almost you go through the stages where you're not really making that much more money, or you're making less. And then you've got to get to the next level. That's when the compound interest potentially works. But
it's your ego, isn't it? It's your ego. Ego. So it's all down your personality trait, but you always want to try and get bigger and better, don't you? And looking at Rob to do it in 5 years, I feel like not that I failed, but I feel like I've plateaued in what I've done. Do you know what I mean? Like I've got to a certain level. See, for me, I always wanted to turn over £2.5 million a year, and I thought, great. But the last 3 years, I've turned over £2.5 million. I haven't got it up to 3 million. How would you change your mindset, Rob, to go, right, let's get to that next level?
Oh God.
I think you just got to be passionate about it. I think part of the reason I wanted to go bigger, even though I was like, "Oh, this is brilliant. This is quite easy life, and I've got plumbing business and everything else," is I don't know, I lose my train of thought. God, bloody hell, my ADHD is awful.
It's weird. I just don't. It's weird. I just don't. Maybe because I'm older than you guys, I just don't have that sort of burning desire to get that much bigger. I've got such a good work-life balance, and I earn good money doing what I'm doing. I'm in North Devon. There's not anything up here could earn you the kind of money I do doing this, and it's just. I mean, I can close up this afternoon if I want to go off without worrying about it too much. And I think if I just went bigger and bigger and just kept pursuing these things, I think I would. I'd just be working.
I can tell you what it is. I remember now. I think for me, it's wanting to go bigger so that you can employ other people, so they can kind of do all the donkey work, and you can do the bits that you enjoy. So I like buying the cars. I like seeing them and checking them out and whatever, but I don't want to get involved with selling, buying them, that sort of thing. And I think you saying that, James, made me think, because I watched your video and you're there like, oh, look at these wheels. I'm going to have to sand that back, and I'm sanding down this, and I'm like, I can put a bullet in my head. I couldn't live.
No, see, I'd go the opposite way. I'd do more of that. My retirement plan is basically to keep the units, keep going, and then just fill this place with like classics and interesting modern classics, and just tinker away to my heart desire, and just be like,
yeah,
you want the car or don't you want the car? Piss off! I don't give a shit. It's got no warranty because it's bloody 20 years old.
Yeah.
But I've MOT'd it, and I've fettled this and fettled that, and just have just a pile of stuff outside that I find interesting. Just pull it in every now and then, tinker with it, do it. That's I just don't have there's no like burning desire. I need a bigger unit, and I need to get to 50 cars, and I need to start doing stuff under 5 years old. I mean, I had, when I was doing my previous jobs, I had huge numbers of staff. Like one point I had like 150 staff under me, and you just inherit everybody else's problems. Your phone's ringing all the time, disciplinary meetings and hiring and performance management and all this kind of stuff. I just don't want any of it. So I don't have any desire to have any staff whatsoever. That's the whole appeal for having mechanics, is like, send it down there. If it doesn't turn up today, but he does something wrong, that's your problem, not my problem. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. So
yeah, it's
just
obviously
weird.
very different mindset. I can tell just from the way you're talking about it, like looking at the wheels, because obviously I know there's money in them to just have them powder coated and done, but you're going to get in there and get your hands dirty and whatever. I just think I wouldn't have the time or patience
Well,
for that.
it's because it's a budget car as well. No one's going to come along and pay me an extra how much for a £5,000 Hyundai i10 because I had the wheels powder coated rather than I rubbed them down and gave them a spray with a rattle can. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it depends until they see what the results of the job, I think.
But the whole reason I didn't just jump straight into another corporate job was because I was spending so much time at the unit every weekend just tinkering with cars and fiddling with cars, and all I was thinking, I was sat in board meetings and I was completely zoning out on what they were showing up on the projector, because I was just thinking I want to get back to that Schumacher Bath and do X, Y, Z to it, and so I can get it ready and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that's probably why I'm on a different sort of thing to you three guys.
James, you're already exactly where you want to be, aren't you?
Yes.
You're in that happy.
Well, there's one more step, which would be 100% trade. That's the one more step. I would just fill that place. I'd have a valet here, and I would just be buying stock in all day, cleaning it up, and I'd just put it out to guys like you and put it out on the trade groups, and it would just all go. I wouldn't
Seems
get
quite achievable.
retail at all. Yeah.
And what about you, Rob? Where do you want to be?
You know what it is? I'm glad you've asked, because I'm having a wobble at the moment as to what the direction is. So, and I've just picked up on what you said earlier about not feeling like you've maybe where you want to be, and your turnover's maybe not what you want. And I think it boils down to what it is that you sort of actually trying to achieve. For me, I wanted a nice showroom filled with nice cars. That was all I wanted to do, and now I've kind of got it. It's awful in a way. You're kind of going, now, what do I actually want truly? And do we go, right, we get another 4 ramps in here, get some more cars in, do we get a bigger premises, do we get more staff? And you know, it's awful. I think in life, I think we're
hedonic treadmill, and hedonic treadmill.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you've got reachers and settlers, and I think you've got people that kind of always going, right, what's next, or people going, right, I am happy here, and that does me. And if you're a reacher, it's the bloody curse, mate. Because you're going, once you've got that achieved what you wanted to achieve, you're going, right, I'm still not happy. What's the next thing? So it's actually, this concerns me. That's how I want to go. And that's a problem.
Yeah. I think there's a lot. It's quite easy if you, like you say, it's a good term, I guess, like a reacher, which definitely applies to me. It's quite easy to just carry on in autopilot. Next thing, without sort of, it's really cliche, isn't it? Stop and smell of the flowers. But yeah, I mean, for me to say that, oh yeah, we've got like 40 cars, I'm sat in a office at my farm where we've got overflow cars and whatever else. And sometimes you're reaching for something bigger is kind of like hindering what you're doing now anyway. You could do what you're doing now, but just do it better. And it'll probably have a better result than trying to do bigger and better.
I think it's your environment as well, though. Like my 20s and 30s, I spent time with people like that, and I was like that. I was full bore and everything. Now I live in deepest, darkest Devon. You know, and no one around me is, you know, everything's here about, are you going to turn up for the cricket at the weekend? Are you going to help put the marquee up for the village fete? Do you know what I mean? All this kind of stuff. No one gives a shit about, if you turned up in one of Rob's cars, they'd think you're an absolute bellend. You know, all the multi-millionaire farmers are driving Pajeros that are beat up on every corner, and they've got more money than anybody else. And it's just not that environment around here at all. They value you on a totally different set of guidelines around here. It's about being part of the community and what you're doing, kind of thing. They're not really about, oh, that guy has a multi-million-pound business. They don't give a shit. They don't give a flying monkeys.
Yeah, it's all about community, isn't it? And that's a great thing about all us talking here, because in my head I always think, is there something wrong with me? Like, why am I feeling like this? But we're pretty much all the same, aren't we?
Yeah, that's the thing you're saying about that. I don't care about. This is the thing I've got as well. For someone who is like infected with ambition, I just always want to do something else. You know, some people are like, oh, I don't know what to do in business. I'm like, I got about 8 things lined up that I'm trying to stop myself from starting because I need to focus on what I'm doing. is my bloody ADHD.
I have to
on
admit,
again.
having known you now for a bit, you are an interesting character like that, because it's not like you'll drive any old banger around the place, but like, I'm going to do YouTube. I'm not going to just do YouTube. I'm going to have a guy following me around, recording me all the time. I'm going to build a studio for it. I'm going to hit 100,000, bang, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
You are very focused on, but you don't have the.
If I bought myself, I mean, I think like an R8 would be awesome. I could buy. The thing is, I could buy one now, no problem. I could go out and pick one from a thing play today and buy one. It just would do nothing for me. So
you're not
cash driven or I'm not materialistic at all. Other than I like creating things. So like we're building a media office at the garage now, so that because we're having another not just one videographer, James. I'm having two now.
You're getting two. I know you're getting two now. Yeah. You get help on it, don't you? But what I mean is, you don't seem to do it externally for anyone. It's not like you try and impress somebody off the back of it. You just seem to have this overwhelming urge. So if you're going to do something, you're going to do it big.
Yeah.
And you're going to do it, and you're going to throw everything at it and reinvest everything, goes straight back in. It's reinvested straight away.
I think infected with ambition is the best term I've heard in ages, mate, and I'm having that. Thank you.
What's that?
Infected with ambition.
Yeah. Well, it's a gift and a curse, isn't it? It is a gift and a curse because, you can't, I don't know what you're like, but you take a holiday and, it should, I know I've got it in me to enjoy a holiday, but 9 times out of 10, I won't.
Oh, no, I hate them. I hate them. I think
because I'm like, right, I got this to do and I could be at home doing this. I know that's part of my upbringing, like was one side of my parent thing was do this, do that, do this. You should be doing that. So that's partly probably why I'm pushed or being dragged into being busy all the time rather than whatever. But yeah, I know that I can. When I was younger, I went to New Zealand for 3 months, traveled around, loved it, did all these sort of things. The idea of that now is just like that can't happen. That won't happen. But life is literally passing me by at the same time, and I could be traveling the world, seeing amazing things or whatever. But I'm just like, nah, I've got things to do here. It is
the major difference with you, I think. I just realised is, Rob, you've got kids, haven't you?
No,
you haven't. Oh, okay. I thought you said you had a kid. Dave, you've got kids, haven't you?
Hey, have you got kids, James?
I've got one. Yeah. I think they make a massive difference. I toned down so much when I had a kid. I toned right down.
Yeah.
Because now everything's about leaving stuff for her. Make sure she's got a mortgage-free house to live in and money in the bank and all that kind of stuff. That's really you do actually start to live for your kids, don't you? That's what it's all about going forwards.
I buy that totally. I've got friends who've been in business, had kids, totally changed the mindset. I've got a missus, not married, but we've been together a long time. She's talking about family planning and all that sort of stuff, and we're looking at moving as well at the moment. And you do change, and I think that's why it kind of ties in with this, like, what the hell is actually going on here? What's the big plan? And I mean, you're blessed, the pair of you, to have children. So what a wonderful thing. And I think I think if you don't have something like that at home potentially to focus on, like a family or children, I think as a bloke with our sort of makeup, remember yourself and Joe will sound very similar with this. You're just trying to find something else. I've got to find something else.
Yeah, it needs to be productive, provider type. That is kind of what we've been taught as blokes, isn't it? We're getting to a real therapy thing here, but you need to be successful. You need to bring something to the table. If it's a bit,
yeah,
absolutely.
It's that what is it? It's that childhood wounds, isn't it? That's what this is all about. It's trying to prove to someone that you're good enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, I've always said my sort of success and whatever is probably the reason I'm so gung ho at it, almost in like a nervous, anxious way, is because it's completely tied to my self-esteem. So I can take minor failures and things like that, and businesses failing and whatever. But if I really felt things were going down, or when you are having bad days and whatever, it's not just like, oh, we're having a bad day. It's like, what a prick I am. Like, how have I let this happen and whatever.
I think the other thing is I did have a business way back with a business partner, and it was going absolutely fantastic. It was the Aston Martins and the AMGs and all that. And then it had a big crash, and it scared the living bejesus out of me. And that's probably one of the other reasons I don't push quite as hard, because I had a proper scare then, like a proper scare. So I'm probably a bit more, that's probably another reason for being cautious. So I say now I've got a family to provide for, I can't take those same kind of risks again. So
maybe this is the difference, because me and Rob up here, I assume this is how we've got the same view. We haven't got kids, and we probably buy some of the more risky stuff. But I don't know how sort of financially, I'm obsessed with making money, but I don't really care about money. So for me, if I take a risk and it all, whatever, I'd live in this shipping container down here. I don't give a crap. I don't care where I live. I don't need anything. I could, if I had to live in the woods, I'd do it. I don't really care.
Yeah.
So those sorts of risks don't really scare me because I'm just like, take it or leave it. It's not really about the money. It's about having done it. And I would feel better about myself for having taken a risk than for not and playing it safe.
But so for me, it's like planting the foundations for my family.
Yeah.
When you see like these farmers that have inherited, I mean, that's true wealth, isn't it? A farmer who owns all the land and then they pass it through the family generations. That's what I'm looking to do with my business, is build something that I can pass on to the kids. It's a marathon, isn't it? It's not a sprint.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like all these flipping margins that we're trying to chase, for me in my head, it's a marathon. You know what I mean?
You also think, I'm exactly the same. I'm sure we all are. Do you think that's also a bit of like in the nicest possible way, because it's not intentional, but you think it's like a bit of an ego thing, like leaving a legacy. You almost won't be forgotten because of what you've done while you were around.
They won't forget you, Joe.
We go down the history books for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. You do want to be remembered, of course you do, don't you?
Yeah. No, I'm just curious, just doing my therapist thing.
It's just how you were saying just moments ago, you feel, and I'm sorry to repeat it, but you feel like, oh, have I failed because I'm not making the turnover that I wanted to be making? And then, a couple of minutes later, you're talking about how you want future planning, wealth building, making sure your family is settled. Those two things totally contradict each other, mate. And if you're actually doing that, then you're probably one of the most successful people that I've met. Do you know what I mean? If you're creating something that you can truly believe is going to be a legacy and hand down to your children, who cares about turnover? So I wouldn't be focusing on those numbers, mate.
The turnover's your ego, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've said I'm not chasing things, but I can't get out of the sales sort of director mindset. I still target myself every single month, and I'm totaling up what I've done over the last 3 months. And if my average from this month isn't the same as those three, I'm like pushing, and that's why I might say, right, I'm going to trade these cars out because I could sit on them and then make full retail them, but I'm going to trade them out. So I hit that number for this month that I really want to hit. So I am quite focused like that.
You make these targets up, don't you? And then you kill yourself when you don't.
Yeah, it's meaningless. What difference does it make to me if that car sells this month or next month? Because it's not like I get an additional bonus if I achieve this amount of gross profit this month versus next month, because I'm not. There's no boss anymore. There's no CEO. So at the end of the day, it makes no difference. But I still do it.
We had one go yesterday, so it was the 31st of the month yesterday. Some guy walked in, bought an A45. He was planning on coming later in the week, but because he'd bought it on the last day of the month, it felt totally different to the
Yes. Well, it's like when I was messaging you last night, Joe, wasn't I, about that guy? And it was like, I'm going to pin this guy down on a couple of cars tonight because that's 2 more sales within this month. Yeah, and it's like, it doesn't really matter whether it fell into yesterday.
You almost tell yourself if you've stacked them up in that month, then it gets you a head start on starting the next month. You got them in, that's that closed off. You can do more the next month, but if that's all the cars you've got, you're not going to sell any more, are you? If it doesn't,
I tell you what, this is from my sales manager days though, because I know how the mind works. So a salesperson will say, right, I've agreed those 2 deals today, but if they then are closed off on the Monday of the first of the month, they're still living off that glory, and it's like, no, that's. So you didn't achieve what you're supposed to hit last month, and then you're carrying them into this month. Which month is it falling into?
I had to actually go on. Sorry.
Well, you have to be quite tough with yourself, don't you? It's like, no, you didn't make those sales this month because they didn't close this month. They're in that next month.
Exactly. Yeah. I had to give my mechanic a day off yesterday, one of them, because he was buying himself a new motorbike. And they were like, you can't have this deal unless you do it this month and come and collect it and get it done. So I had to give him a day off to go and get it. So it happens every day. But I'm glad I'm not tied to that kind of, actually having to hit the targets and have them done and dusted in that month.
The hardest thing about car sales is you start at 0 every month.
Yeah. I've always said this. If you're in sales, you need a month in between, didn't you? When I was in like hardcore sales with big targets, it was like you were racing to the end, and I'd be on the last day giving up the sales team trying to hit that target. And then you came in the following morning, exactly the same Dave. You came in the following morning, and all you're presented with is this is this month's target. Straight back on it again.
But if you work for someone else, the better you do one month, the better you're expected to do the next.
Yeah. Oh, that's another reason for giving up. I was hitting targets, and I was taking. I went to a company that it would been like 40%, 50% loss, and took it into growth. And they were like, and then your target just goes up. it goes up, it goes up. So you
Right.
shot yourself in the foot every time you did well. You shot yourself in the foot, and that's another reason I like working for myself. Is that you know if I have a really good month, no one's saying to me you can't earn that same amount of money next month unless you do even more this month.
Well, I mess about with my spreadsheet because I'm a spreadsheet guy. I'm Excel
I like that.
from my financial services days, and I'll mess about with it in the office. So if we were having a bad month, I'll start looking at quarterlies.
Yeah,
Last year's quarterly. Oh yes.
Well, Rob,
Yeah, exactly.
It's what you make in a year, isn't it? You know, that's what, you know, small-minded people are like, oh, I haven't made any money this week. If you look at it in weeks, you'd give up, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you would. That's true. That's very true, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, so you look at it, at first I used to look at it months. Now I do what Rob does, I look at it quarterly, and then
Depending on the month.
yeah. Another trader told me, he went, it's not what you're making anything, it's what you're making a year. That's what it all boils down to.
Because it can be so feast and famine, can't it? It can be absolutely dead, and then suddenly, like, did everyone wake up and get a memo they need to buy a car today? It's just mental. Yeah, you can't. You've got to look at
and then you get
long-term,
too confident. Like, do you do that, Rob? If you've had a little run, you get so confident, you pay too much for cars.
That's going to say that's when you make the mistakes of buying stuff.
That's the worst thing is when you're too confident, and that's when you make mistakes.
Yeah, so or desperate for stock, one of the two. Yeah.
Well, exactly. Yeah, but it's probably a desperation driven by greed. You're like, get them in because they're selling so quick. The quicker I get them, and then that's when you miss stuff.
Yeah, done that.
Before we've been going quite a while, but I wanted to chat to Dave about what's going on with this garage before we finish. Because context for everyone, Dave was on the move. He'd found somewhere new. We chatted about it off camera quite a while ago, and he was like, "Do I go for buying this place? It's about 700 grand, buying a garage with workshops and everything." And that's what you've been gearing up to. And you've even handed in your notice at the other place, haven't you?
I handed me notice in.
Yeah.
So everything was going through. Basically, Robert, a garage come up round the corner for me. It didn't come up for sale. I just popped in and said, "Look, if you ever think of selling this, give me a shout." And the chap, he's 65, and he said, "Oh yeah, do you know what? I'm ready to retire." He said, "I just want 700 grand." Well, just.
You're talking like Rob now, ready to buy stock.
I mean, yeah, to me, shitloads of money. But it for me, it was perfect because you can get like 70 cars on there easily, 2 or 3 ramps with 2 mechanics, a valeter, and then there was like 2 people running it. So it just
value.
Beautiful. Everything there on site. So I was like, right, well, if I could show my house here, everything's empty because I've sold my house to buy the garage. So I needed a 30% deposit, which was 210 grand. Everything's going through. And then the surveyors went into survey to value it, and they valued it at 385,000.
What? Are you buying the business though as well?
That's exactly what I asked. Yeah, are you buying the goodwill?
Because it's car sales, they won't give any goodwill towards it. And I'm not buying all the cars. I'm just buying them, so to speak, and the equipment. But I've got another mortgage broker looking into it, see if we can get a bit of goodwill. But at the minute, 385, they've given me 70% of 385. Long story short, I need to find another 140 grand. I could do it if I've got properties that I rent out. I could do it if I sold all them, but how long is it going to take to sell them? Wow. Then I've got to pay capital gains tax and all that. So I was saying to the lads, I think I'm just going to have to knock it on the head. I'm still selling my house, but what I'm thinking is if I keep the money in the bank, I'll have about $250,000 in the bank. If somewhere comes up for sale for $500,000, then I can just pull the trigger and buy something else.
Is the old boy not up for old boy 65? That's harsh, isn't it? It's
the that old.
Retiring. Is he not up for a discussion about price?
Yeah, no.
Will he not do? Since we both, occasionally, you probably more than me, with this James Sinclair guy, will he not do like some kind of deal with you where you give him the 385 grand or whatever it is and agree to pay him over the next 5 years the rest? You can all be written up by
I wondered if it wasn't a case of splitting out all the equipment and stuff. I don't know what the actual value of all the equipment and the stock is, trying to split that out of the deal separately so that isn't hanging on the mortgage.
He'll always preach this thing that you can always try and negotiate some kind of deal where, if you can't get a mortgage, you could say, like you say, you give him the lump sum up front, maybe 400 grand. and then like, I'm gonna have to because you want the 700 grand, but the surveyors are saying it's only worth 400 grand. So it's in your interest to take this deal because who else is going to buy it? Can I pay you off over the next 5 years at whatever it is, 50 grand a year somehow? I don't know. Maybe once you're in the building and you're operating your business from there, and there is a business there, I bet the value it changes because it is all tied together and it is yours. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but it is a bloody
How
nightmare.
would you get that wrote into a contract then? Like,
you'd have to speak to a solicitor and pay him 5 grand, I expect. But
yeah, for them to tell you it can't be done. Cheers, right? We're 5 grand in the hole then.
Yeah.
But look, where there's a will, there's a way, isn't there? And
100%, and it's going to take a bit of,
strategic thinking.
Yeah, but also just a bit of faith on his part.
Yeah,
I think,
and you might have to put a personal guarantee against it, so that if you didn't stump up over the next whatever, then fair enough, he can come take your house. But
yeah.
I mean, otherwise, you say to him, "Look,
650." To be fair, I think you might. I think you'll go for 650.
So can you lend him a car, Rob? That's what he's trying to say. Because then he's just there.
This is what this podcast's all about.
Now I see.
Give me some money.
Thanks for coming on, Rob. Yeah.
Should we have the GoFundMe link down the bottom of Rob's screen, please?
I'll show you the spreadsheet. It's not looking good, lads.
Well, what would you do then, Rob? Do you want to buy your own place? And if you're in the same situation, what would you do?
Oh God, property, as you know, because you've got some property, they've only made so much of it. There's only so much land in the world, isn't there, in the UK or whatever. I wouldn't want to miss out on that opportunity. And I guess in answer to that question, I've got 2 different routes I'd want to go down. Number one is I like the idea of a farm with a barn on it.
Yeah.
And can you do it a little bit Tom Hartley-esque? Where he's going to got his...
Yeah, I like that idea, yeah.
Because you're paying yourself a rent, aren't you, etc.
That was my original plan when I bought this place. But
quite exactly.
planners do not like cars.
Hide them in a barn.
Well,
if you buy one with a barn, it might be easier.
I'm kicking myself every day at the moment because there was a place literally just up the road from my house that came up for like $250,000, and it was probably, if you look at Rob's place there, probably twice the size of that building, with hard standing all around it and chipping and all that. And it was, and I was like, I'm in an I haven't got a local garage there. Well, it's down a lane. Will people come down that lane because it's a little bit in the sticks? And now I'm thinking that was a stupid move. Not
just for the record, did we discuss this?
We did, and you said, "Go for it, James, you idiot." Yeah, you did. Yeah, I do remember that. I do remember that happened. And the thing with it is, I'm paying rent on these 2 units here, and that's just dead money. It would have, even if I mortgaged that, it would have been less than I'm paying for these units. So it was stupid not to, really. I'm sure I'd have found a garage.
But James, that's what I'm thinking with this garage. If I don't go for it, in 10 years' time, every time I drive past it,
yes,
your future self will thank you. And you think about when you go past, there's people, everyone's got them in their area, haven't they? They know someone who's in business and they rented a unit off and they own all of it. They own an industrial estate, they own a garage, and they built this. Yeah. Once you've got it, this is why I bought this bit of land here at auction. Because I won't necessarily get a house there straight away or whatever, but who knows what I'm going to be. I'll go through stages of planning to figure out what I can do. But until I own it, I can't do shit with it. So I need to own it, and then we'll figure it out. And it's the same. I think these people, they just take the risk. They'll buy it, and at some stage down the line, your later self will thank you.
Agreed with that. Especially if we have an interest rate changes. That would have been really boring. Now we have interest rates start going the right way. Obviously, the Labour on about building loads more property, which might start to actually make the property market more exciting. You could quite quickly see a return on that in growth. So, if I had the opportunity, mate, I would be diving on it. Sounds like you are doing, but I would be all over that like a rash trying to make that work.
Even if I have it for 10 years and then I say, right, I want to sack it off, I could rent it out, or I could knock everything down, put units on there, rent out the units individually. Like the world's your oyster, isn't it? If you want it.
I'd say Joe's bang on. I reckon there's an opportunity to take the goodwill and the equipment out of the deal and have that over a payment plan of X amount of years, and then just buy in the property at this lower rate. I reckon that's the way to do it. And it happens a lot. I know loads of people have bought businesses where they've paid for the sort of goodwill and that side of it afterwards on tranches going forwards.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you've tried to do it at the price that he wants for it. And it's not you that's put up a roadblock. It's
Yeah,
the
exactly,
surveyors and the
exactly.
mortgage company. So you can go to him and say, look, it ain't going to happen. No one else is buying this off you for this much money because it's very unlikely someone's got 700 grand in cash. And if they have, they're probably not buying this place, they're buying somewhere else. So
Or they're going to really screw you down on it because they're cash buyers.
exactly. And then at which point, if you're not super desperate to retire, then so be it. But if I buy it from you and we work out this deal, all your staff, you haven't got to worry about laying them off and giving them whatever it is, what you call it when they've, redundancy, yeah, and all that sort of stuff. So you saved yourself there. Your legacy of your garage gets to live on because someone else is going to come in and I'm going to do it right. And, it's not going to be in my interest to buy this property, which will still, in a sense, I'm sure you could write it in a clause that if you don't stump up the other 300 grand, he gets it back, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you could be happy to do that because
someone watching this will know, won't they? I'm sure someone watching this because there's sort of
any specialist sort of mortgage advisors, deal negotiators, whatever.
It was a stunt.
Yeah, it would be a shame to let it go because obviously that's probably been a year in the planning, isn't it?
It has. It's been a year of stress on my head. So
you know where you are. At one point, I remember hearing you on that James's podcast. He was saying about buying that place.
Yeah.
Do you reckon that would be an option? Because there's a flat up above. What's going on with the flat up above? Is it empty?
No, I can't. Where I am, I can't buy that because I'd only be able to buy the pitch, and the garage people next door who've got a garage, they want to buy that. So the landlord's promised the garage but he'll never sell it. He'll never. He's like a
they haven't been there as long as you have. That garage
about the same time.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, but he's like, he'll never sell it. He'll never sell it.
No, I mean, why would you? I mean, imagine the bloody capital gains he'd have to pay. So he probably bought it for £5 and a pack of Marlboros or something.
Yeah, he paid 50 grand for it in the 80s.
Yeah,
it's worth like 600 now. So yeah.
But the thing is, you want to be that person that people are joking about that. You bought this for 700 grand when property's worth millions for a 2-bed detached. It's £1 million because that's just how the inflation's gone. People be like, oh, yeah, you bought that for 700 grand. There's a podcast you can still find on YouTube. That old thing we used to use before they implanted it in our brain or whatever? You'll be that guy.
You've remotivated me. The last 2 days, I'll give up on it, but no, I'm not letting it go.
The other thing as well, like you say, your other option was to put like a tin garage, or you can get those prefab garage. You'd have to get planning, which would be a pain in the ass. It would probably be all right, but yeah, then you're still on the pitch. You've still got neighbours who you're perhaps not that great with, and
losing space.
And you are losing more space, and it's not as motivating as moving to somewhere new and having a whole new start and owning it for a start. Do you know what I mean? That's the other thing with my place. I keep getting messages when I do a video, and they're like, "Oh, 2 years of YouTube and you still haven't done the roof and your workshop, whatever." It's like, well, I ain't spending 20 grand on re-roofing someone else's building.
Yeah, that's the problem. You never want to invest in something that's not yours, do you? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Unless you're Rob. Unless you're Rob.
Did you do it, Rob? If you're invested in staying there.
Rob, how much have you spent on that, mate?
A bad line, mate.
Hey Dave, where else could you go and a group of friends convince you to spend 60 grand in 10 minutes? 600 grand in 10 minutes, eh?
Just for reference, I know there's one thing you know the price of. How much are one of those stacker ramps?
3.5 grand plus VAT.
And what have you got? 5 of them?
That's not bad, really. I paid 1,500 quid for just a little scissor lift thing.
I think it's all right. Well, they've got the interlock, so you can get more in a smaller space. And then we've got a force that takes the car up into the bar. I think that was 4 plus VAT or 4.5 plus VAT. So they're not stupid money. And for the space you get, if I was to rent somewhere in Bingley near us to get 4 cars, and it'd be 600 quid a month quite comfortably. So you.
And it looks cool too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it gives the right impression when someone's coming to spend the sort of money. How much is a red car cover?
It's what?
How much is a red car cover?
How much do you think they are?
100 quid.
£35.
Oh no! Right, can you send me a link? I'll get a couple. I don't know what I'm going to put them on. But...
What's your sticker at the moment, Rob? What's the one that you can't get rid of?
Oh, it's the Ferrari. I'm not gonna beat about the bush here.
Yeah.
That's
really.
Yeah, Rob, is it red cars then? People don't like red supercars as well.
Well, for me, I think if you buy a Ferrari, it's got to be red. Personally,
Yeah.
yeah. I avoid red cars, but saying that, I've got a red Polo over there that was Callum's mates that needed it sold, so I've just gone, oh, I'll have it. And then the body shop's come down. He said he'd do me a favour if I bought a red Duke off him. So I've got that.
Oh, you haven't got a flat red Duke, have you?
It's more burgundy.
Right, okay.
Even worse.
I was going to say, mind you, I had a flat red Crosslander. I didn't think it was going to go anywhere, and it sold like within a week. There's always someone for it. But I've got a gold Mercedes. I can't get red for love nor money. I'm going to have to do what you said, Dave, and black it all out now. Black the wheels and the grille. You love doing that, don't you?
Get the grill. Get the front grill. Look, mint.
Yeah.
Just done that with a Beamer.
Right. I got, before I let you all go, because we're probably about an hour and a half in now, a few questions I want to ask you, Rob. How old are you, Rob, if you don't mind asking?
37.
37, 2 year older than me. Bastard.
Ouch.
Well, only in just the, like, look at your place versus what I've got.
It's not but yeah, go on.
And how many do you keep in stock at the minute?
At the minute, we've got about 25.
Oh, okay. So there, I was really doing you a disservice when I said he's probably got like 10 cars.
That's why I'm here, mate. I need to clear that up.
Get the record.
So have you got stuff outside then, have you?
Yes, we've got a renter's place down the road as well, just like an outdoor storage facility. You can get a few in there. But you can get 20 cars in here. Doesn't look like it, but you've got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. You've still got the centre bit and the detailing bay. So get 22, 23 in.
You can fit even more if you get rid of your Chesterfield as well.
Yeah, get rid of the pool table. That's another one there.
Yeah, pool table's another 2.
Business for me, Rob.
Hey, we'll have a go.
And the other one, someone sent in a question, and I mean, they sent this question in on a video that was me and James, and it's far more relevant with Rob here. So I'll go through that. And to be fair, if anyone does want to send in questions for us to answer them, just drop them in the comments and we'll answer them. But Nime Dave, N-I-M-E Dave, has asked a question to either of you to answer from your own perspective, as I'm not sure of the answer myself. Hypothetically, you are selling stock worth 100 grand per unit on average, Rob. But you take a car in with a couple of curb wheels, a scuff bumper, and the interior leather trim has never had a good clean in its 6-year life. Do you A, bang it straight out as it is onto your platforms, forecourts, having priced in a few K for the repairs, should the customer want to bargain? The customer might not notice or care, of course. Or B, do you get the work done and make the car as perfect as possible, all for the same overall cost, but giving the customer no room to haggle? Potential customer negatives in the first instance being seeing the car as it just in its come-in state could make them question how it's being looked after. And the second, even if the car was mint, the customer would still want to deal with a bit off the top. Personally, I'm amazed how badly prepared some cars are at many dealers in this price bracket, so there must be a reason for it.
So
yes. Sorry, Rob.
So there's a saying I got taught in this industry from a very old boy who'd done it for years and had a VAT investigation, so he obviously knew what he was doing. There are 3 P's in car sale: presentation, presentation, presentation. It's got to be right.
I like that.
It's got to be right.
I think we know what, in answer to his question as to why it happens, I think we know why it is. Because if you're on a stocking loan and you've bought a shitload of cars and you don't want to invest any money into it until you know that it's going to sell. You prep it for the seller. So if you go and prep all of those cars and then you have to put them back for auction, you're not going to get that money back from that prep because you're still going to get trade price for it. So it's not a mystery as to why it happens, but I think it depends on the dealership as to how their cash flow works, how small they are, how big they are. I don't like to put anything out for sale ideally until it's all prepped, even if it's a cheapy kind of car, unless they happen to come on before it's pre-prepped. But I think that's the answer, isn't it? I think most of us, because we own our businesses, and tend to do the prep fully before they go out. But I think if you're really big and you've got,
other than this guy, I mean, but I think if I was selling 100 grand cars, like the question says, then yeah, 100%. I think you are selling a dream, aren't you? Like, it's not just a car,
true.
it's like a whole. So it needs to be. But what if we put stuff out that's 10, 15 grand, and
but somebody's 15 grand car is like.
I know, but
all their money.
I just feel like speed is a thing. Sometimes if we're selling like 40 cars a month and we're just like, get them in, get them photographed, get them listed, we can make the wheels look okay for the pictures and say they need like a powder coat, or it's always the diamond cut ones with a lacquer that's like starting to bubble. And it's like, I mean, you can take pictures. Then what we'll try and do is take pictures and then book it in to be dropped off at the wheel people and swap them over and keep them going so that before anyone turns up, they do see it. But on the off chance that someone turns up, I do think that there is a benefit sometimes. They'll be like, oh, the wheels or whatever. And it's like, yeah, okay, right. No, well, tell you what, we'll get them done for you if you're paying them the full asking price. So I think there is a negotiation benefit to it. But that, I don't think that would come across too well on an Aston Martin Vantage.
No, I think definitely in the sub 10 bracket, when they're going to try and haggle you anyway, I think it does tend to be better to leave a few blemishes on the car and decide, you decide how perfect you want it. You pay for last price and it's perfect, or you don't and you get a bit of a discount.
Because you also might get people who come in, they're like, oh, I'm not bothered about the wheels. And stuff. Well, I'll give you a bit of a discount because we were going to prep them. Say you're going to spend 300 quid on powder coating the wheels. They're like, well, we'll knock 150 quid off if you want. Do you know what I mean? So you're actually saving yourself, but it's not just the cash, it's the time and effort and logistics of getting it done.
I get the argument both ways on that, to be fair, lads.
Yeah.
And we've done it before where we've had cars and just get them online, and then people come down. But I have found with exactly what you're saying, with the sort of sub 10 grand end, which we still do fairly regularly because it's bread and butter, isn't it? The type of customer that comes in, you could have bubbling behind the wheels where it's been rusted, and they either just don't see it or don't care. So I get that on that end. But the gentleman or lady who's asking the question there at 100k car, it's just got to be right, hasn't it? I mean, you'd be me if it wasn't.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you don't want to turn up spending 100 grand. They're like, yeah, we're going to get that done. We are going to fix that, and we are going to fix that. That's when you'd be like, why haven't you? But yeah, on a cheaper car, I think you'd understand, wouldn't you?
So Callum and I went to Maserati yesterday because we were dropping off that Lotus for a service. Went around the Maserati showroom, and there was on one of the, I think it was an MC20 that was sat in the showroom, doors up, all very sexy, a couple of 100 grand. And it was dusty inside, and someone had written the name in the dust. Obviously, a kid who sat in the car or whatever. Even that. Okay, is it?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, so true.
That's bad. That is bad.
Yeah. So I wrote Cubitt cars on it.
Come to Cubitt cars. Cars are clean at Cubitt cars.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. I think we should wrap up. Where can everyone find you, Rob? Because you have now got a YouTube channel as well, haven't you?
We do, yeah. Thank you for that. So our YouTube channel is The Logbook, as in if you're in the UK, understand the car logbook.
I think it's a good name. I like it.
Yeah, great.
Or we're Cubitt Cars on TikTok, which is CUBITT.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for coming on. Thank you guys for everyone for being here. We'll reconvene next week when we've got someone else on next week. Oh, we got James Alford of Platinum Car Centre. He'll be an interesting chat. He's down in Plymouth. I've spoken to him a few times. He does lots of racing. So he's invited me to come watch him race before, but I've never actually sort of spoken with him.
I think I've seen his adverts on social media. I think he does Facebook ads with little videos on.
Yeah, you may have seen like he used to have a taxi that he'd pick people up from the train station, like a black cab with.
Oh, that was rife in this trade for a while. Do you remember that, lads? Right?
Yeah. Do you know what? I was driving down the motorway coming back I went to G3 Bedford yesterday, their new auction site. And on the way back, there was like transporter after transporter, massively overweight, with, like 3.5 ton beaver tails with a trailer on the back, with just black cab after just black cab. They must have had just like an end of fleet type thing.
Yeah.
I thought they might be going off for a rally or something.
Theo in next week.
Theo's in on the 15th.
That's the 15th. Try and put that Duke into him for me, will you, please?
Do what?
Try and get that Duke into him.
Yeah, no worries.
Straight.
Yeah, right. We'll leave it there. Thank you, everyone, for coming on. We'll see you all next week.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Nice to meet you, Rob.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thanks, lads.